Can't you get some zip code? Here endeth the lesson.
Welcome everyone back to another video. This is a Gotham Gavel movie review, and you are watching Gotham Cenobites. I'm Terry.
I'm Lindsay.
And we made it to the end, finally. The 10th of its time, but now the 11th, or part of 11. Hellraiser movies. Hellraiser Judgment.
And what a way to end it.
I go back and watch these damn things, because I could have sworn I've always talked good about this one.
I was pleasantly surprised.
It was fucking good.
It was great, actually. And very underrated, I think.
Initial response after this time, after I was watching all of them, was if they'd have just went at it with the same, wording of this is a reboot and not a continuation, because it's not a continuation. It's very different. It's very reimaginative, and maybe I'm biased to Gary, but I think it was better than the 2022 Hellraiser.
That's exactly what I said to him last night, too. I was like, I think I actually like this one more. It is a more lower budget film, however.
That's like, I have two complaints about this movie. We'll get to it. But they both revolve around, they would have been better with a better budget.
Yes, but overall, I thought it was, like, extremely underrated.
What he did with, I don't remember if it was 300 or 350,000, but still, what he did,
something around that range,
was crazy.
Yeah, it was I felt like it was very artistic in a way. As a lot of grotesque, gross things, but this film actually made you, like, think. Like, and someone with a brain. I mean, some people might not pick up on some of these subtleties, the mythology, the religious undertones. Well, I wouldn't call it an undertone.
And I will say, I mean, watching it the first and second time, sure, it was good. But when you watch these, I'm going to try my best to post a link for all the interviews we've been watching with Gary talking about, his whole career in this movie. I don't know, just hearing him explain it, explain what he was thinking and just other things, like, it really made it better to me. I mean, I know this is your really first time watching it, but it was definitely better to me after hearing the interview. Alright, so this is our last review, so it may be longer than others.
I think it should be. This one was great.
So, story. So, the movie starts with a conversation between Pinhead and who you don't know at the time, but it's the auditor. And they're having a conversation about how not everybody is attracted to the box, and they need to find new ways to lure people in. And then they're talking about all these, like, really sadistic, fucked up people. And then that's when Pinhead's like, those are the souls we'll target first. And then you fast forward to this creepy guy going through his mail, and he finds a letter, and there's an address on it. And he goes to this house, and the door opens, and it's the auditor. And then you gotta go through this trance, and he wakes up, and that's when you see my intro. That's been the Gotham Gavel intro.
Yeah, that's really exciting to finally see that.
Dude strapped to a chair, and you see Gary. And what happens during this process is Gary's the auditor, and he kind of has them hooked up, like taking their blood into this machine, and it's pumping the blood out of them. And as he's typing, and the paper is like human skin, and he's typing like whatever they're telling Gary, or sorry, the auditor, it's played by Gary. He's typing it all in their blood on human skin. So come to find out, this first guy is a bit of a pedo and child torturer.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really the first time you see this new process. Because, like I said, it's a reboot.
It really reminded me of, it's almost like The Office getting into hell. Like this is your interview process.
Like Beetlejuice. The waiting room.
Oh my gosh, the waiting. There you go. It's the waiting room. Yeah.
So he gets all of this story typed out, and he's like, the assessor will be with you. And then the assessor comes in, and it's just this creepy fat guy. He's wearing a suit, but like his hairy titties are hanging out.
Yeah. He's just got like what I have on, just this overcoat, and just hobbling in with
pulls
this.
his little suitcase out, pulls his plate, his cutlery.
He's got a little vial of children's tears.
So he mixes that all into the papers, the human skin with blood typed on, and he fucking proceeds
Starts eating it. Like, it's gross.
And when he's all done, he's just like all happy, and then
he starts
to regurgitate.
Yeah, throws
so
it all up.
Runs over to the corner of the room. He throws this stuff up into a funnel that's then pumped to the next part. And the auditor's kind of walking from room to room while it's happening. They show you him looking at everything. And it comes into like this sloth, like you would feed pigs. And then you have the three... Trough, whatever. You had 3 naked women. Like, I don't know.
Well, they're skinned. Their faces are skinned. Yeah. You can explain more.
They just stick their hands in it and just kind of play with it. And then the auditor peeks his head in, and they just say guilty.
Guilty.
So then Gary goes back in there, gets him, takes him to this other room. They strap him down, and then these 3 women come in, and they're the cleaners. And their job is they clean him with their spit.
They're licking him. They're spitting. They spit into a cup. They pour it into his mouth.
And then, after he's clean, and what I think of every time I see this scene is the big reveal in Ace Ventura 2 where this big guy walks out. And, he just sets the little guy down. The little guy comes out of the bag. So that's what he does. It's this big guy, and I believe he's referred to as the Butcher. And he kind of just messing with him. And then he turns around, and this latex-covered dude flies out of his backpack, and he's got these 2 cool fucking...
I don't know what they're called, but they're these massive blades.
Brass knucks, but they're like humongous blades. And they just fucking skins him. And I think he's the surgeon, so the Butcher brings in the surgeon.
Yeah, okay. And that's where the skin comes from.
Yeah, it peels the skin off.
Or the paper.
And then it shows, like, his blood, I guess, goes into the table and then shoots out all the women's titties. Which is kind of...
Yeah, like...
Okay. The jury comes in and they get splashed with blood.
Again, this is an extremely grotesque film. If your stomach can handle this sort of thing,
that's the process. Like, he's pretty much... Now he's in hell. But that's how I guess that's the process of the waiting room, like you were saying. Mm-hmm. But now his soul's in hell with agony, all this stuff. So yeah, all of that shit is the introduction. And then the credits roll. And after the credits, we're in a car, and you see these 2 detectives. And I don't know if it's said right away, but you come to find out they're brothers. And it's Sean and David Carter. And after the little 1.5-minute scene where they're talking, because they're on their way to a case, I looked over at her and I'm like, there was more acting in this one fucking scene with them 2 dudes in a car than there was in the entire fucking Revelations movie.
So true.
So the acting obviously is better.
Acting is 1,000,000 times better.
But they drive to a crime scene, and we later find out that there's like, I call him like a 7 copycat. Someone's just killing people based on the 10 Commandments. And so they're investigating the killing. And it was a hot little chick who had her stomach cut open, and fucker put her dog inside of her because her dog was her baby. And
poor dog.
So they're at the crime scene investigating, and then another cop comes out of the shadows, and that's was that Detective Edgerton, however you say it. It's a lady cop. So the three of them together start investigating, and they more murders happen, and of course they're discussing previous murders. But somehow in their investigation, I think it's the guy in the beginning who went through the process. They come into his apartment, and I think that's where the detective finds the address for the house in the beginning. So he goes there alone, like an idiot. And of course the door opens, and there's the auditor, and he gets tranced, and he wakes up in the chair. And what I thought was fucking hilarious is, and you see the intro, and I guess they one of these people going through the process, just asking all these questions. No, why me? All this stuff. But when he wakes up, he's pretty much talking his way through the process, and then
what are these? What are
the auditor's just boxes? No, he's actually like, you obviously are going to do this and that to me. And I just talked. And the auditor's just like, huh.
He's like intrigued, like, huh, really?
So like since you didn't waste any of my time,
with the usual.
So he gets up and explains, because there's like 5 puzzle boxes sitting on like a mantle. Mm-hmm. Tells him what the box is, and then of course sits down, starts typing, and of course as he's telling all the shit he's done, I guess he was in the army, so that's where he first started killing. But he killed, was it a dog when he was a kid? Either way,
I don't remember.
His stack of papers was like,
it was a lot,
substantially more, and he was like, so the assessor will be with you, and what a meal he has ahead of him. So
I don't know if you've stated yet, the auditor is a fantastic character.
Yeah, I mean, I love Paul.
The subtleties of the act,
but Gary, I mean, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but he steals the movie.
Steals it. It is awesome character.
So the assessor comes in, and like it seemed like from the first bite, he starts spitting up this black stuff, like he's been like poisoned or something.
Yes.
So he goes over to the trough, throws all this shit up, then the jury touches it, so all the girls are fucked up.
Everybody's passing out.
So the auditor doesn't know what the hell to do. So he goes, it's like, oh shit. So on his way to talk to Pinhead, as Pinhead's, just like letting all this shit happen, he doesn't need to work for a living anymore. On his way to talk to Pinhead, this bright white light, like it's the first time you really ever see the angel or the god side in any of these movies. And it's Gavel, which we'll find out is one of the 7 archangels.
Yes.
So she pretty much tells him that he's doing God's work, and we need him out there. Let him go. So Gary's perplexed. So again, he was on his way to Pinhead, so he goes and talks to Pinhead. And so I guess they take him while he's going to talk to Pinhead. Sorry. He's still taken to the cleaners, the detective.
Yeah, yes.
So he ends up escaping the creepy 3 witch ladies who spit on him.
The detective does. He gets a hold of them, and somehow he escapes.
So he escapes, and of course, Pinhead being gangster is like, I don't give a fuck what she said. So they go to
about Gavel.
Yeah. So they go to see, and he's gone. So Pinhead picks up a piece of his audit and eats a piece, and is like, you don't even need to go after him. He'll be back. So after he escapes, he calls his brother, and those 2 detectives, they go back to the house. They bust in, but the Cenobites are high and dry. They dip the fuck out. So he doesn't really explain to his brother where they're going, why they're at the house, and then he just takes him home. So I mean, he starts kind of drinking and going downhill, and then
which he's sober. He was sober.
Like I said, PTSD, because he was in the service and war, killing people. But while he's recovering from one of his benders, the lady detective Edgerton kind of lets it slip to his brother that they're investigating him. She's there to investigate him and help with the murders. So that's when his brother starts, snooping around, finding some stuff and like books, quotes he's said, and quotes that this was it called the preceptor, this murder person has said in his old 16 or whatever.
Yeah, he's during the film too. He's also like quoting, was it Dickens?
Yeah, and then
Macbeth.
Somebody judges the righteous man and the wicked man.
Yeah, he's
like
very
that.
very religious and biblical. Yeah.
So then, they get a tip, and it ends up being when he put the dog in this chick, he also put her phone in her or something.
In her throat.
In her throat. So when the phone died, I don't know if this is even a real thing, but it kind of revealed its location.
Yes, it's a real thing.
Where the phone died.
Yes.
So location tag. So she sends the brother on like a mission to like stay behind and like snoop while the Edgerton and then the main guy go out and investigate. While the building they end up going to is the preceptor's building. So they break in, and that's when they're it's revealed the last killing was going to be this detective's wife and his brother. So that's when he kind of knocks out the female detective, because it's obvious now that he, the detective, was the killer this whole time. So he knocks the lady detective out and calls his brother and his wife to come there. So, like I said, they were the last victim on the wall on this.
Yeah, there's portraits of all
the people he's
all
killed.
The victims.
And the last one was covered, and when they unveil it, it's like, the detective and the other detective's wife, which you find out his brother was fucking his wife.
Yeah.
So they were going to be the last, to die. So like I said, he knocks out the female detective, and then he calls his brother and his wife to come there. And he says, I had such great plans for you, but now because of that bitch's phone or whatever, I have to rush my plans. So he pretty much sits his wife and his brother down, makes them open the box together.
Oh yes, he stole a box.
He stole, the box that Gary was telling about, or the author.
Yeah.
So, of course, Pinhead comes, the auditor comes, and he's like, the same shit they always say, these two for me, in exchange for me, and of course, the auditor's like, I'm sorry, it's not how this shit works. So he ends up saying something I think that really pisses Pinhead off, so he gets, strung up by his hands, and then enter Gavel again.
Mm-hmm.
She comes in all high and mighty, saying, we need him to keep killing, or keep doing his work. And that's when Pinhead says, you need him out there, doing all this shit to scare the people back, to you guys. And that's when she's
there can't be, good can't exist without evil.
Right. So she pretty much forces Pinhead to let him go. And before Gavel gets here, of course his brother and his wife are piping off in the background, and it's like, we'll deal with your little bullshit ass sin in a minute. And then there's
beneath me. Something like that.
The wall opens and like chains come out and fucking kill him and drag him into hell, and as the door shuts, amateurs.
Yeah.
I really love Pinhead in this.
Yes.
So then he's about to kill the detective, and that's when Gavel comes in. So Gavel makes him let him go, and he's like, with pleasure. And as he, turns the box in a way we haven't really seen before, he goes back, and then as he, comes to, the woman detective is awake and fucking kills him. Shoots him like fucking 8 times.
Immediately.
And then we go back to Gavel and Pinhead, and that's when she's like, you did that on purpose. We were almost at the end, people. Sorry. But, so Gavel is mad that he sent him back to die.
She's more than mad. She's pissed the fuck off.
Yeah.
And she gets mouthy, dude.
And she gets mouthy and ends up saying something about you'll suffer. And then, of course, we all know Pinhead. He's like, really? Suffer? Me? So he pretty much strings up Jafiel. Like everything. And what I love about it is he ends up just taking his pins off and he fucking makes Jesus his crown.
The crown of thorns. Meanwhile, the auditor's in the back like, oh shit.
When he strings her up with chains, he's just like...
He's just in there like, well, fuck. I don't think that's a good idea.
So, of course, she's all like, you'll pay. And he fucking kills Jafiel.
He says, I feared nothing or something like that.
I welcome eternity of agony or some shit.
Yeah, I fear nothing. Something like that. He doesn't fear anything.
So he kills her, and then of course, the auditor walks over. Probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And then of course, big white light again, and
next thing you know, it pans in.
Was one of my complaints we'll get to, but a little scene happens, and then it's it's Paul with no makeup on because God or whoever it is has made him into a human again. So now he has to live as a human. Yeah, which is roll credits, and then
awful for him. I'm sure.
I'm sure that is agony.
Yeah.
So the movie ends after the credits. There's a scene of I guess they're were they Russia or Germany, some other country.
Yeah.
And these two guys walk up to a house and like, hello, can we come inside with you and talk about Jesus?
I think they're Mormons because they're in the little white suits and the bicycles.
And of course, the auditor was like, ooh, 2.
Yeah.
And then that's how it ends. So the auditor and whoever is continuing the story, and that's how it ends. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, this is... Okay.
No, continue.
Oh, I was just saying...
I've talked enough.
This was... Okay, let me just spit it out real quick before I go into a different tangent. This was a great film. It was super disgusting and grotesque.
At times.
But, yes. But the story was fantastic. The acting was great. I just absolutely loved the auditor. Yeah. He was so great. And Pinhead, I thought the gentleman that played Pinhead actually... Paul Taylor did a fantastic job.
And again, did you read the interview, listen to the interviews? He was just genuinely happy and, honored to play Pinhead. And Gary even says, my biggest problem was getting the fucker not to smile all the time. But, yeah, he was great. And
yeah.
I really wanted to see a sequel to this.
But
with whatever studio getting the rights and the new one, it's probably never going to happen.
That's unfortunate because I feel like Gary, his writing, his knowledge, his Hellraiser knowledge, and experience, he needs a second film.
With the exception...
With a better budget.
With the exception of Revelations and 1, 2, and 3... Gary's done the makeup for all of them, except the new one, too. So...
this movie, the writing, though, this movie really made you think. He spoiled it for me. I knew who the killer was, but, Well,
that's the thing. People gripe and complain that it was predictable. And
I don't see how until you get to the phone part, maybe.
The first half of the movie, until he's strapped to that chair, I wouldn't ever have questioned, maybe he is the killer. Until he's in that chair, and it's that much people he's killed.
I guess, yeah.
So, I don't think it was obvious right away, but it comes in time where it's like, shit, maybe this is...
I wish you didn't tell me so I could have had that experience to say, yeah, I had no clue.
Well, I was going into this thinking that you had seen it already. I forgot that you dipped out in the first the cleansing.
It was disgusting. I was like, I'm not watching this shit. It's gross. That was years ago.
Yeah, my first time watching this, I gotta admit, it was a little weird, and it is different.
It is,
but the second time I watched it, by myself, when it came out in 2018, by the way, if you go into the mindset that this is a reboot, not a continuation, it
is.
And that's just for the people who can't get over the fact it's not Doug, because it's never going to be Doug again.
Right.
But once you get past it's not Doug, and it's a reboot, reimagining. It's a fucking great movie.
I agree completely.
Alright, so Cenobites, and I gotta admit, this is probably my third or fourth time watching it. I did not remember Cenobites other than Pinhead. Like, I honestly thought I remembered it only being Pinhead and Gary or the Auditor.
Chatterer.
But the Chatterer makes a brief appearance, and then there's even a part where you see Chatterer go after the Auditor, and then Pinhead's like, no.
Oh, that was actually nice. Yeah, that was a neat little scene.
And then, of course, the Stitch twins are back. So yeah, Stitch twins, Chatterer, and I guess you'd consider the Auditor to be a Cenobite. But,
yeah, and what about the other people? I mean, the guy with the blades.
Well,
they're not Cenobites, are
they're
they?
not.
They're
Okay.
part of that world, though.
Right, so Cenobites is done, it's those Cenobites.
Okay.
But back, I guess, to likes and dislikes. I love the movie as a whole, but one of my biggest dislikes is right into what you were saying. I believe if he had a bigger budget, it would have been Cenobites, or Cenobite-looking jury, and Cenobite-looking butcher, and hopefully a Cenobite-looking surgeon, and not someone covered in latex. I mean...
Oh, yeah.
He just... I mean, he even says in the interview, he let the women naked because, like,
he didn't want to put them in cheap-ass costumes.
Right, he didn't want to cheap them up, so I was like, I'll just have her tits hanging out.
Yeah, and then the women he wanted, I mean, you could tell they were older, not the witches.
The one who's the cleaners.
The cleaners, which is a nod to Macbeth, the three witches. They were meant to be, like, super old and decrepit, like the lady from, like, what movie am I thinking of? Like, the Shining, where shit's, like, falling off. It's just really gross. Or that scene from 300, the three witches.
Yes,
yeah.
I need to watch The Shining.
That's my favorite.
But yeah, that's just my complaint. And then of course the scene at the end where Pinhead's going from Pinhead to human. He even says in the interview that he wanted to make it a better transformation, like a reverse type of video from Hellraiser 2 where you see him turned into Pinhead. He wanted to do a de-transformation, but it's just clouds, like, and then boom, he's human.
Yeah, it's a very quick zoom, pan in, and yeah.
He cut corners, and I mean, for what he had to work with, it's still a great movie. But if he'd had more money, I guarantee you they would have looked like Cenobites and not just some creepy Saw Leatherface type shit.
It just wouldn't have looked as low budget, but I don't want to knock on it because, like, it was such a good film.
Well, I know it's
for
just
what he worked with.
I think they would have had better costumes or better Cenobite looking aspects, and then the scene at the end where he's turned back into human.
It would have looked more theatrical, like the newest movie, I guess.
Yeah, so I mean, that's,
you could tell that movie had a nice ass budget. Yeah. And from those interviews, the first Hellraiser had $1 million budget. The first Hellraiser? That's $1 million?
The scene where Frank comes back to life was expensive.
Oh, I'm sure. But, I mean, that blew my mind. $1 million back then.
Yeah, back then, it was probably, what, two or 3 million? In our currency now?
Right.
But,
so, the film industry really is whacked.
So, I don't know. I hope that the David on the sequel somehow involves Gary. And
I do too, because holy crap, he could bring so much to the table.
One of the interviews
he's amazing.
It was the husband and wife who did the makeup effects for the new Hellraiser. They were actually referencing some of Gary, and then Gary said that if he never saw another pin in his whole life, he'd be happy. Yeah, but so yeah, did you have anything you wanted to add to likes or dislikes?
I like this movie. Really made me. It made you think, but not in a like. It just didn't seem dumbed down in any sort of the way. Like, whereas I picked that up in some other movies, where it was just not dumbed down. It just this movie made you think.
Yeah.
And, like, if you're not familiar with, like, biblical aspects and mythologies, like Japhil, who she is, she's a real person, or
Angel.
Angel. You know, it's not just a made up name. You know, this is.
Yeah. And she was like one of the only archangels to resemble a female.
Yeah.
Well, to humans.
Right. So, I mean, it's, again, just he really put a lot of thought into everything, I feel like, in this film.
And watch the interviews, because he almost didn't get this made. Which would have been an even greater tragedy.
Yeah, because I want to see more of the Auditor. Yeah. That was fantastic. And I just loved him and Pinhead's little interaction. And actually, I really enjoyed the Auditor and what's his name, the detective, the serial killer guy.
Yeah, whenever they were
their interaction, their little banter back and forth. They were quoting different oh gosh,
books and stories.
Stories in the Bible.
Yeah.
So it was just very entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were. You were entertained throughout the whole. Grossed out at some points, but there was definitely good entertainment value in this movie.
Yeah. Alrighty. So unfortunately, it's that time. Final reading in the last movie. And when the credits rolled, I looked over at you and I'm like, this is what, the third or fourth fucking sequel that featured detectives, and it was the best one.
It was the best one.
So I'm going to eat my words again. When we got to Inferno, I said that was my favorite after the first four, and I think this is my favorite now.
Yes.
So I say I'm gonna go first this time. 4.
Go ahead.
I was gonna give it a 4.5, but I'm like, I like looking at what all I've written up. 4 is good enough. I think 4.
I think this movie definitely deserves a 4. I'm gonna agree with you. Yeah.
So 4 for Judgment.
Yeah, I kind of mean and I said to him last night, like I almost feel like I don't know if I really. There's aspects about the newer movie that I really liked, but I really love this one. And I gave the other one a 4.5, and now I'm just like, I don't know.
I think we both did. But I mean,
that was just coming off of all the other movies that we watched, though. It's like, holy shit, this is like way better than Inferno and Mayhem or whatever it was.
I'm not trying to knock. Well, we saw the new one before we watched Mayhem.
Okay,
6.
well, Inferno.
But yeah, I mean, it's good. And look, I'm looking forward to a sequel to it. But I'm just, at the same time, I'm like,
this film deserves a sequel.
I wanted a Judgment sequel.
Yeah, this film deserves a sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Judgment is 5th in the line for me, and then the new one, and then the rest of these half-baked shit. But Revelations, wow, I remember liking that more, and it is not good
At all.
But yeah, so do you think this
Except
movie
for-
definitely redeemed Gary?
Oh my gosh, without a doubt, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If I was Gary, I would want my name off of Revelations. Because they changed your story.
I mean, and the story was still decent, despite their butchery of it.
The story was good.
Okay, well, we don't need to talk about that. We're done now.
Okay. And we're done with Judgment.
Yes.
Do you have anything else to say?
No, that's really it. Thanks, Gary, for giving Hellraiser this awesome...
soft reboot.
Yeah, it needed it. I'm saddened that it's so underrated.
Yeah. I looked for some interviews from Doug, and there's not a whole lot from his side. But, I'm going to tag the interviews with Gary.
And he wanted Doug to be in these films so bad. Yeah, that's what's sad.
And he should have been in this one.
I agree.
But, I could go on for another hour talking about the interviews.
Yeah.
And, yeah. But I'm going to put them in there. If you are watching this and you're a true diehard Hellraiser fan,
highly recommend.
You're like me and you haven't watched these interviews. They're from 4 years ago when Judgment came out. If you haven't seen them, I highly recommend going and watching them. There's 4 parts.
It gives you such a good perspective on everything, on all the films and the making.
And then this one is highlighted pretty well too. Judgment is talked about heavily.
Yes.
There's even a 5th part where the same people who interview Gary interview Paul, who played Pinhead. That I recommend that one too.
Oh, I gotta watch that.
So yeah, I'll try to put all 4 of those links. And you think I should? I'll put the Paul one in there too. But
Yeah.
that channel is called Midnight's Edge, and I know.
Great interviewers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really a horror fan, just Hellraiser, but I imagine that you're interviewing a lot of horror people.
Well, I like how
as
they
well.
said, this is so long, sorry, but a part of the interview, I have to agree, they said that Hellraiser isn't necessarily horror, but it makes you, it's a, gosh, it's not a thriller, it's like almost, oh my god, I'm butchering what they said. It's not really horror, but it's
not, to me, it's not scary.
no, it's, I don't know what the fuck they called it, damn it. Never mind, scrap it.
It'll be in the description, so you'll be able to watch those two. And I don't know what's next for us. I mean, we may do a recap and ranking video, maybe when I'm off the week after Christmas. And I don't know, maybe as we get closer to Halloween next year, maybe we'll do some Candyman or some other stuff. But
That's cool.
take a break, and I say that now, and we may decide to do sooner. But yeah, so regardless of whether it's statue, me just running my mouth, or another review, we will catch you guys on the next one.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Court's adjourned.